What is up, guys? We're back with another video, and today we're checking out this case right here. This is MSI's GUNGNIR 110R. I'm not sure if that's how you say it. It's spelled really weird. For sake of making it easier, I'm just going to call it the GUNGNIR 110R. Now, the original version of this case came out a little while ago, but they just re-released the case in a white version, and MSI has come out with a bunch of different white components to really make it super easy for you to build a sort of like white theme build or all white build. So let's go ahead and take a look. As we take a first look at the case, I would say it's your standard mid-tower size case. I'll go ahead and put the official dimensions right here. And of course, like I said, we do have the white version, but it does come in black as well. The front part of the case is actually pretty unique. On one side, you have a tempered glass panel, and on the other is a normal metal panel. Now, they're angled to make a sort of prism design, which actually looks pretty cool. For all those wondering about airflow, there are vents on the top and bottom of the case, as well as in between the two panels and on the side of the front bezel. I really like this sort of split design in the front. You know, most cases we get to see all of our fans. This gives you just a little bit of a preview, not too much RGB in your face, but enough to catch your attention. The front bezel of the case can be easily removed by pulling on it from the bottom. With it removed, we find a removable filter and our 3 front intake fans. These are 120mm ARGB fans, and if for some reason you want to swap these fans out, the front of the case will also support 2 140mm fans or radiators up to 360mm. As we move up to the top of the case, we have all of our buttons and connections. So from left to right, we have a large power button, smaller reset button, power LED, a USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 Type-C port, 2 USB 3.0 ports, headphone and microphone jacks, and a LED button. Now, the LED button is connected to the ARGB controller, which we'll go over in just a little bit. The rest of the top of the case is a large ventilated section with a magnetic filter on top. This section of the case will support up to 2 120 or 140mm cooling fans or radiators up to 240mm. As you can see, we have our radiator installed up top. The main side panel of the case is a 4mm thick tempered glass panel that's going to show off all of your hardware inside. It's held into place by 2 thumb screws like a normal side panel and sits in a groove, so it's very easy to remove and put back on. Moving around to the back of the case, we have a pretty standard layout with our 4th 120mm ARGB fan, our expansion slots, which do have a slot protector, and our power supply mount at the bottom of the case. As we get inside the case, we do have that pretty standard 2-compartment layout, with the top compartment being for our motherboard and the bottom being for our power supply and storage. As far as motherboard support, this case will support mini ITX, micro ATX, and ATX motherboards. Around the motherboard tray, there are a handful of cable routing holes, with 3 having the rubber inserts installed. Here you can see our AIO, which is MSI's Mag Core Liquid 240R V2 White Edition. Being that it is all white, it fits perfectly in our build, and you can easily connect the fans and the pump to the RGB controller that is included with this case. As we continue to look inside the case, at the front, of course, we have our 3 ARGB fans. And one thing I really wanted to point out about these fans is they are all white. The frames, the rubber pieces on the corners, like everything about these fans is all white. And it's just that attention to detail that I really like from MSI. You know, when we see white versions of cases, they have the exact same case fans as the black version, which typically have like a black frame or something like that. So I really like that these are completely all white fans. The power supply cover does extend the entire length of the case, although there is a small cutout in the front so you can install a radiator up front. One thing I noticed about this case compared to the original black version is that there's not an SSD tray on the power supply cover. There are 2 cable routing holes on the cover, as well as an opening to show off your power supply. MSI was nice enough to hook us up with their MPG A750GF all-white power supply, which is of course going to match this build perfectly. This power supply is completely modular, has an 80+ gold rating, and even comes with all-white cables. Taking the opposite side panel off the case, we can see how the rest of the case is set up. The first thing that really caught my attention was the ARGB controller. Now this controller supports up to 6 fans, and the 4 included fans with the case are pre-wired to it. Now this is only an ARGB controller, so you'll have to power all the fans yourself, but MSI does include a 3-fan splitter, so you'll have to power the 4 fans with 2 open fan headers on your motherboard. Right next to the controller, there's a large SSD tray that supports 2 2.5-inch solid-state drives. It's held into place by a single thumb screw, which makes it easy to remove and install your drives. There's plenty of tie-down points on the back side of the motherboard and 3 Velcro ties to help with cable routing. In the bottom compartment of the case, you'll find a hard drive cage that has 2 removable trays. These trays support both 3.5-inch and 2.5-inch drives, so with the SSD tray and these removable trays, this case supports 4 hard drives out of the box. When you power your system on for the first time, the 4 ARGB fans will light up nicely, and I think they give off enough light, so you're really not gonna have to, buy an RGB strip or anything like that. Now for effects and everything that come with the RGB controller, we of course use the LED button at the top of the case to switch through different colors and effects. As you've seen throughout this video, we've been using the sort of rainbow circular effect. We'll go ahead and press the LED button to switch it. And here we have another circular effect that goes through the different colors, sort of like in a circular pattern as it's changing. We'll hit it again. And I believe this is sort of a fading, so it's gonna fade to different colors. It's on green right now, and it's sort of fading to a teal, and it will do the sort of fading effect to different colors. This next one, I believe this next one is just solid. So we have solid colors that we can go ahead and switch through. So we have a white, blue, teal, green, yellow, and red. And then we have this sort of split design here with half of the fan being, looks like blue, and the other half being sort of a purple. And this is sort of a pulsing effect, and you can do this with all the colors as well. So if we hit the LED button again, we can do it with red. We can do it, through all your colors, we can go ahead and have that sort of pulsing effect. And then we're back to the solid. And again, you can do the solid with the 2-color design. Now this is the only 2-color design I believe that's offered, which again is the sort of blue and purple. And now we're back to solids again and again. We can, go through the solids pretty easily here. So again, you're not getting a ton of effects like you would get with software, but again, having the button on the case is pretty nice. And again, you can connect this controller to your motherboard so you can control all the fans with software. When it comes to testing, we test both temperatures and sound levels. Now, the thing about this is that we did our testing with our base hardware that we use for all cases, so it's not this specific setup, so definitely keep that in mind just to keep things comparable. Obviously, we're not gonna test this case when it comes to temperatures with an AIO that they sent us. We're gonna test it with the hardware that we test all of our cases. So here are those results. So I'm definitely a sucker for white cases. If you've been watching this channel for any period of time, my main case back there, which is, you can't see it, but I use an all white case, and I absolutely love all white builds. And of course, with all the RGB we have these days, those things go together so well. So I really like that MSI has come out with a white version of this case. Now the case in general, it's a smaller mid-tower, but I found it extremely easy to build in. I really didn't run into that many issues. I think the only issue that you really might run into is that if you are populating the 2 larger hard drive trays in the bottom, that's where most people will hide all of their cables, and that's gonna get a little bit messy and just be kind of cramped up in there if you are using those. But beyond that, installation was extremely easy. The RGB fans are good to go out of the box, so they're all pre-wired to the ARGB controller, which makes things super easy. Like wiring up, you know, RGB stuff is a pain in the ass, and it's all done for you here, which I really like. And what's nice about the controller is that you can of course use it with a button on top of the case, but you can also connect that controller to your motherboard's ARGB header, and then you can control the, you know, all the fans with software if you want to, which I really like. The case looks excellent, as you can see, shows off all your hardware. And then on top of that, MSI has all of these new sort of white themed products. We have the AIO, we have the power supply. It makes it so you can very easily, you know, do an all white build with pretty much all MSI hardware, which is really, really awesome. The case looks great. The cooling is pretty good. Obviously not the best that we've seen, but again, for what it is, I think, you know, again, this case looks great. The front of the case I really like with that split panel design. And this case is very affordable as well. Just around 120 bucks on Amazon, which I think is a great deal. Again, 4 included ARGB fans with this. The controller, everything is just really, really good. So if you have any questions about this case, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up. We'll see you guys in the next video.